Hello guys, my name is Eric Strzygiel and today I would like to show you a breakdown for this piece. I have not recorded the process, but I will show you how this piece came to be, just in the steps, so enjoy and subscribe if you haven't already. So starting with the really basic thing, I really had this idea in my mind for a really long time, so it was not like I just went there and went through my typical process of designing an illustration and doing all the concepts and everything. In this case I had quite a good idea what I wanted to do with this shot, I kinda had the sketch in my mind. But nonetheless, the main goal was to create some sort of an undead giant or something like this. So in this case, I just started doing some really basic sketches. So basically, I did around 6 of them or 7 of them. 2 of them were completely not shownable, or however to say it. They were way too rough to even understand them, and I had problems to understand them even after 2 or 3 days. So in this case, at the beginning I went with a little bit more massive type of iron giant. I kind of felt like making him a bulky, really strongly armored type of thing will make it look a little bit better, and I kind of tried to explore it in this manner. But after doing the sketches, I kind of felt like all of them look kind of cartoonish, so I felt it will be way better to actually make a really tall, slim giant type of thing, where pretty much he will look like he is able to smash everything without any problems, because he is quite huge. And even with this size, for example the width of his arm or the size of his muscles will still be really huge compared to the a casual human, so they will still be extremely strong. And pretty much this is the sketch I started with, and it was the only thing I have done in terms of sketching for this piece. So in here, pretty much after doing some sketches, I just went to 3D Code and decided to make some really basic 3D models, so 3D mockup, so I will have a better understanding of the perspective. I can kinda experiment with the shot, I can test the placing of the figures and everything, and I can see pretty much really roughly how it will look like in the painting. So instead of drawing everything, and I guess I could draw everything, but it will take 10 times longer, and I really felt painting a little bit more and exploring everything in 3D, I pretty much modeled it in here. So for the character, for example, this one for the character, as a friend of mine told me, it is the way that it's supposed to be said. I pretty much just posed the figure and did some really simple cloth simulation. So in this case, if I will go for this guy in here, for example, and just go with the, I guess, cloth in here, I can pretty much just, so for example for this guy, I can just go with the cloth, press start, and then this thing will pretty much try to make a simulation, so I will get a really nice cloth for this type of guy. So it's really simple way of adding some basic things to the model, but it can be really rewarding. For me, I have a lot of problems with, and the simulation, I have a lot of problems with drawing cloth and everything, so every help I can get is quite okay. So in my opinion, this looks kinda okay, especially if later I will also gather some references and make it look a little bit more cool. So the next step was to bring everything to Keyshot, because I really like rendering everything in Keyshot, and just place the model in here, texture it a little bit more, and just to create a basic material information for me to later to paint on. So in this case, if I will go to basic, you can see how pretty much the whole thing looks with the light and the shadow. And that's pretty much creating a 3D base. I really like making 3D bases because it allows me to explore the shot in way more details. So I don't really need to worry about redrawing everything. In this case, I just try to imagine myself being there, holding a camera and trying to take the best shot possible. And I have a lot of control about every single element in here. So also you can see I modeled in Keyshot, I modeled in 3D Code previously some chains. I have no idea why they are not in the model anymore, but I tried to paint them, but I felt okay, painting and drawing the chains will be a real hassle, so maybe I will just slightly model them with some curves, and then I will render them, so I will have a really nice base to base off later while painting, And also this type of thing allows me to, as I said, explore. So maybe I will like change some shots and everything, and even if I will like choose the grid, so for example thirds, pretty quickly without any problems I can make sure like my main elements are placed in the canvas where I really want them to be. So in this case it was quite simple to like make a render. And for the giant, for example, when for example I will type rust, I also switched the model for him, so I rendered him 3 times, one when he is like made out of metal, once when he is like made out of rust, and once when he is like made out of skin. So this way I will have like 3 different references for the rust, for the metal, and for the skin in this light scenario, so I will have easier time painting everything. So yeah. So in here you can see how the render looks like. So the shot is pretty much all set up, like the proportion of the shot is around 60:9. I guess later I just kinda trimmed the top, so like it will feel a little bit more claustrophobic. So it will also look a little bit nice, like a little bit nicer. And this was pretty much the base for the painting. In here you can see the metal render, in here you can see the skin render. So I had all the informations like painted like already in the picture. And the next thing that I had to do was to create some chains, because like as I said I wanted to paint them, but later I decided like there is no way I'm doing all the chains like by hand. So after rendering all of them I also created some sort of a clown mask, so I had no problems with extracting the chains from different render. So for example I just select the blue color. In here I just go back to this layer, I press L, right layer via cut, and by this way I have my chains on the separate layer. Maybe the quality of the chains are not like the top, there are like a lot of noise in here, but it's more than enough for me to start a painting and to make a painting look nice. And one of the things that I also really like in terms of like rendering everything, because usually you need to render some different passes for the render to look okay. So in here I also render the ambient occlusion one, so pretty much everything is white and the whole environment is white. There are like no different light sources, so pretty much the geometry will get darker where the light can reach the surfaces. So in this case, if there are like a lot of like really tight geometry near to each other, it will pretty much get darker. And as you can see, if you place it to, for example, overlay, it really increases the depth of the whole painting. So it's a really nice step to add, because it will like bring everything out of the painting. So you can see all the lights will go a little bit lighter, because in the normal you can see in here there is a little bit more white, and also the whole colors will get a little bit more like saturated, because like some of the colors will pretty much get lighter, and you will get a lot of these cool things like the small shadows in here. So pretty much the light will look a little bit more naturalistic. So if there is one tip I will give you, so you will be able to make like your render look way better, is just make an ambient occlusion like pass and just place it on the overlay. You can play with the sliders or with some you can play with the sliders, or you can play with some blending modes. So in here like you have like a total control of how the painting will look like, and the better the 3D base that you have, like the more problems you will solve in 3D, the easier it will be for you to paint pretty much everything. So it's a really nice tip in my opinion, and it really helps in terms of painting. It creates this nice quality to the render. So in here, as I said, I have not recorded the whole process for the painting. I just saved some like steps that I really liked to the painting. So this is how they look like. So yeah, this is pretty much it. This is where I started from. I added a little bit background to the I added a background to the background, so there will be something. And I really wanted also these two characters in the background to be shown that they are entering the room. So later I pretty much what I have done was to just paint on top of this guy. So I had my reference, I placed the renders on the sides, so like the metal render and the rust render, and I was just color picking or just changing the color slightly by hand, and I just tried to paint everything as I really wanted it to as I really wanted it to be. So in here I also did some color grading and increased the brightness and the contrast for the piece, so pretty much everything will be readable a little bit easier, because as you can see, if I will like really go small with this painting, it seemed to be like really dark, and in here like you can see the silhouette of the character way better, so it will be a little bit more readable. Just remember, if you make a dark piece, like a really low on light piece, you can still make it kind of bright, because you can change the exposure of the picture, so everything that is bright will be way brighter, and you can see a lot of details in the shadow. But yeah, it's nice to know that you can do something like this. Later I added some fog and also added this guy, and I will also talk about the input that my friends put in this piece, so but it will be after doing all of this. So I put also this guy in here, and then it was just rendering. So I combined the critiques my friends gave me, because I asked 4 of my friends for the critiques, and tried to like do the stuff they told me probably will improve this piece. And after doing so, I really feel this piece kinda started coming together the way I wanted it to look like from the beginning, but I kinda needed another pair of eyes, not ears, another pair of eyes, so I will have like a fresh I really needed like a fresh pair of eyes for this piece, so I will be able to increase the quality of the painting. And later it was just a detail, some more color grading, a little bit more of some curves and levels and brightness and color balance and everything. So the finishing touches most likely were just some adjustments and like sharpening some details. And also in the almost at the end of the painting, I was kind of feeling like something is really not right with this elbow protection, but I kind of had hard time to grasp what is wrong with it. And after looking at it for like several minutes, I was like, okay, he won't be able to like bend his arm completely, because this thing will pretty much like limit the whole movement for him. So I kind of changed the shape, and I already felt the whole design of this guy looked way more unified because of this small change. So if you have some problems with the painting, like always remember, always try to verify your stuff, so it will make a little bit more, just a little bit more sense, I guess. But going back to the critiques, because I strongly believe this piece won't come out the way it came out if it wasn't for my friends. So this was pretty much the really first render that I have done for this idea, a little bit closer to the sketch that I have done, because this guy in here, as you can see, is doing something like near the leg of this guy. Initially the idea was he broke off his chain and he was like reattaching it, and the monster was kind of looking at this guy like mindlessly, so I kind of at the beginning went with the idea that he is huge and stupid. So after sending it to Jakub Fajtanowski, my friend of mine that pretty much gets every single painting that I do, and I always ask him for some critiques, and he pretty much always nails the critique, told me like it looks kind of weird, like the shadow works, but it should have its face like hidden in the shadow. And I really like the idea, because it added a little bit more to this like mysterious vibe to it. So just to see how it will look like, I just pretty much placed the surface over the light source, so it kind of hidden the face of the monster. And I also added the light source from the top, like the bluish light from the top, so the silhouette of the monster will be readable a little bit better in this case. So there will be like now this huge shadow, there won't like, it won't be in like a complete darkness, it will be hidden, but some light will shine through the top. So maybe above there's some crating or something like this, and maybe some outside light can enter the tomb. Maybe like they look at the monster from the top, like from the higher levels of the church or the catacombs or wherever they are in, so they can like understand and kinda what is the word, kinda look after him if he is not doing anything like wrong. And after pretty much doing all of this, I kinda went to this stage where I had like a really basic idea what I wanted to achieve. So it was pretty much rendering, and at this stage I sent it to Konstantinos Skanteridis and Naimul Alamosmani, and they both had like really different critiques, but I pretty much combined the critiques made by them. So as you can see in here, the left one is done by Konstantinos and the right one was done by Naimul. So Konstantinos went a little bit more with like extracting the silhouette out of the background, so really like enhancing the mood of the whole piece, where there is like a lot of light coming through the top, and I really like this idea. Like it kinda make the whole thing a little bit more powerful, mysterious, like it had the scale in it. And also by adding some like small details like this red glow from the candles and adding some foreground elements so the floor wouldn't be so even. And Naimul went with the idea of removing the guy on the left, moving the guy that's doing something with the chains from the right to the left, and opening the space between the pillars on the left side so the warm light could enter from the left side of the piece. And by accident, as he told me, he added this kneeling guy, and I really like the kneeling guy. Like I kind of felt it was balancing the whole composition way nicer. So I took the kneeling guy from the Naimul's idea, and I took pretty much the rest from the Konstantinos and combined them to this piece. So in the end, it looked way better, in my opinion. And I really didn't want it to open like this place, this light, so there won't be light coming from the left side, because I kind of wanted him to be like in this closed room, in closed tomb, where pretty much no light, like no artificial light like torches, candles and everything enters to the room. So he like lives in the complete darkness. And also at this stage I kinda figured out like there's no way the candles will give this much light to the entire like painting, so to the entire place. So instead of like leaving the candles in the painting, I switched it to some sort of a magic sphere, magic ball or something like this, so I can justify the brightness of the sphere. So maybe they are living in like a really complete darkness, and maybe they use magic because it's a little bit more convenient, or pretty much whatever. But like coming to everything, this is how this piece came to be, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you will enjoy this small little breakdown. So if you haven't already subscribed, consider subscribing, or just subscribe, so more content will come. And I hope you learned something new, and thanks for watching, and goodbye.